Hello! What's up? Today we are here in the city of Zweibrücken in Germany. It's located on the southwest end or tip of the country by the boundary of France. We're gonna explore the old history of this city. Zweibrücken, literally translated as two bridges and deux ponts in French, is a town in Rhineland-Palatinate in Germany on the Zweibrücken River. The town was the capital of the former imperial state of Palatin-Zweibrücken, owned by the House of Wittelsbach. From the end of the 12th century, the town was the seat of the County of Zweibrücken, the counts being descended from Henry I, youngest son of Simon I, Count of Saarbrücken. The line finally became extinct on the death of Count Eberhard II, who in 1385 had sold half his territory to the Count Palatine of the Rhine and held the other half as his feudal domain. Louis, son of Stephen, founded the line of the House of Palatinate Zweibrücken. In 1533, Wolfgang, Count Palatine of Zweibrücken, converted Palatin Zweibrücken to the new Protestant faith. And in 1559, he founded the earliest grammar school in the town, Herzog Wolfgang Gymnasium, which lasted until 1987. When Charles X Gustav, the son of John Casimir, Count Palatine of Kleverg, succeeded his cousin, Queen Christina of Sweden, on the Swedish throne, Palatinate Zweibrücken was in personal union with Sweden, a situation that lasted until 1718. Starting 1680, Louis XIV's Chambers of Reunion awarded Zweibrücken and other localities to France. But under the 1697 Treaty of Rijswijk, the Duchy of Zweibrücken was restored to the King of Sweden as Count Palatine of the Rhine. In 1731, the town passed to the Palatinate Birkensfeld-Zweibrücken branch of the Counts Palatine, from where it came under the sway of Bavaria in 1799. It was occupied by France in 1793, and on November 4th the following year, the town became a canton center in the department of Mont-Tonnerre at the Peace of Luneville in 1801. And that is when the French annexation of the town was confirmed. Finally, on its reunion with Germany in 1814, the greater part of the territory was given to Bavaria. Thus, the town of Zweibrücken became part of the Palatine region of the kingdom. The last prominent social event before World War I was the inauguration of the Rosengarten by Princess Hildegard of Bavaria in June 1914. As a consequence of the First World War, the town was occupied by French troops between 1918 and 1930. The course of the Kristallnacht in 1938, the town's synagogue was destroyed. On the outbreak of the Second World War, the town was evacuated in 1939-40 as it lay in the red zone on the fortified Siegfried Line. Shortly before the end of the war, on March 14, 1945, the town was nearly completely destroyed in an air raid by the Royal Canadian Air Force, with the loss of more than 200 lives. On March 20, American ground troops reached the town. Zweibrücken became part of the new state of Rhineland-Palatinate after the war. In 1993, the town underwent major change. With the departure of the Americans, the military area became free, which corresponded altogether to a third of the entire urban area. Alright, since we learned the brief history of the town, let's go visit its very own historical tour with this map. Peter's house. From the gardener's residence to the town museum, Court Gardener Ernest August Bernard Petrie, shown here with his children grieving over his dead wife, had this representative building erected in 1768 to a design by court architect Haut. His initials AP are immortalized on the early classics' balcony railings. The owner's profession is indicated by the motifs of the balcony trusses and the interfloor stairs. The building remained in the ownership of the descendants until 1960 and has housed the Municipal Museum ever since. It was fundamentally restored in the years 2004 to 06. Manlik House. Artful Duke Christian IV, who had fortuitously won this house in his own building lottery, gave it to his court painter Johann Christian von Manlik as a gift. Manlik was a great painter and universal genius who would go on to also design Carlsberg Palace of Charles II August. He later saved the valuable art collection housed in Carlsberg Palace from French revolutionary troops by taking it across the Rhine. Manlik subsequently used over 2,000 paintings and 7,000 prints to establish the Munich Pinakothek Art Museum. Ducal Suburb. Building lottery, the Ducal Suburb, designed by court architect Haut, today is the oldest architectural ensemble to survive in Zweibrücken. Even the devastating 1945 bombings were unable to harm it. The Duke's higher-ranking office bearers, such as valets and court gardeners, resided here, in the vicinity of the palace from 1770. To provide financing for any gap sites remaining, the Duke came up with the idea of the compulsory lottery for all public, servants, municipalities, and guilds. The lottery winners then became homeowners. Altes Gefängnis. Cradle of Liberty. It all started in Westreich region. The heads behind the German freedom movement were active in Zweibrücken. The reason being that the Supreme Palatine Court of Law was also Germany's most liberal. The French Code Civil provided the legal and intellectual breeding ground for their uprising against the outdated principalities. In 1832, Pfeiffer, Schuler, and Wirth were co-founders of the Preserverin, Germany's very first pre-press organization. Without them, there would have been no rally at the Homburger Fest. But the champions of unity, justice, and freedom paid with their own personal liberty. Charles Church. When two Protestant churches, Karlskirche and Alexanderkirche, are placed in sight of each other, an interesting background story is guaranteed. The whole Zweibrücken was reformed in the 17th century, when the Swedish King Charles XII sent his Lutheran officials to Zweibrücken. This minority lacked a church of its own at the time. A combination of the Reformed and Lutheran denomination was as unthinkable as that of Protestants and Catholics. Synagogue. There is nothing left of the great synagogue built in 1879 to remind one of the Jewish community that had once been an integral part of Zweibrücken life. Over 100 years of Jewish history were permanently obliterated in the night of the program dated November 9th and 10th, 1938. Despite the presence of the fire brigade, the synagogue fire was not extinguished. Neither did the Zweibrücken synagogue trial in 1951 bring any perpetrators to light. Oldest town hall. Right at the center for over 400 years, the town hall had stood here in the heart of the city. Once the town charter had been granted on April 16, 1352, the citizenry's self-administration arrived. The town hall's destruction in 1677 by the French and the new building erected in approximately the same location in 1699 are documented. So even as long ago as that, life pulsated here in the center of the town, with traders offering their wares in roofed walks provided at the time. Following several relocations, the town has now been at Herzogsplatz Square since 1952 for the second time in its checkered history. Oxenstierna House. Immigration policies, even as early as 1700s, the Swedes already showed an interest in furnishing Zweibrücken, especially as the town was in a pitiful state. The Swedish King Charles XII, having inherited the town, commissioned Count Gabriel von Oxenstierna with the administration. A stroke of luck, modern urban development activities such as draining the marshy soil, combined with open immigration policy encompassing many families from France and Switzerland, prepared the ground for the duchy's flowering in the 18th century. Alexander Church. He was a true Zweibrücken prince from the Wittelsbach dynasty, Maximilian I Joseph of Bavaria, as well as being Elizabeth of Bavaria or Sisi's grandfather, initially Duke of Zweibrücken, and then following his accession to the throne in 1806 became the first king of Bavaria. Until the 1945 bombings, the Alexander Church had served the Wittelsbachers as a family vault. In 2001, Prince Alexander was interred here. He was the proud great 11 times grandson of the builder Duke Alexander. City Gate. The Saarbrücken prehistory of Zweibrücken. If the Counts of Saarbrücken had not diverted the old salt route from Lorraine around 1170 in a cloak and dagger operation, then built a castle accessible by 2 bridges, and made a son of theirs Count of Zweibrücken, then the first citizens would never have settled here under the castle's protection. Zweibrücken grew as a town, replete with the town hall and town gates. The Zweibrück River Island used to be located where the traffic island of the coach station is situated. Upper Suburb, a royal address. Exile builds Pleasure Palace. This is where she used to play, the 11-year-old Maria Leszczyńska, daughter of an exiled family who would later in 1725 be given the opportunity to move into the Palace of Versailles as Louis XV's spouse Queen of France. Her father, Stanislaus Leszczyński, fugitive king of Poland, became the Zweibrücken exile by building the Pleasure Palace, Tischflick. Countless glittering fests, numerous music and theater performances injected cultural life and courtly splendor into the city and stimulated the labor market. Himmelsberg Cellar. Used as a refuge underneath the town, featuring a hospital, town administration, and living quarters from 1944. Excavation traces seem to indicate first beginnings in the middle of the 16th century. Their incorporation in a French fortress line by Bourbon around 1680 is likely. A technical architectural similarities with Vichy seems to suggest so. Porcelain manufactory. White gold china, Mason, Zweibrücken, thanks to the economic assistance provided by Duke Christian IV, who benefited from Joseph Michael Stahl's alchemical skills. The Zweibrücken's upper classes were able to set their coffee tables with Rococo's-inspired crockery for 8 years. But a shortage of purchasing powers enforced mass production of simple ceramics as early as 1775. The ducal porcelain manufacture was located here at Schlossplatz Square. Bipontina Library. Gossip and classics, pages after page for bookworms saved from destruction again and again. Besides Speyer, Zweibrücken was the only Palatine town to feature a printing before 1500. Georg Gessler, a letterpress printer, was notorious for his popular scandal stories, while the library is one of the pillars of Zweibrücken. As a center of learning and education, achieved fame in scientific circles, scientists from all around the globe used to come to Zweibrücken for their research and continue to do so today. Duke Castle. With clear lines, no frills, while Zweibrücken is characterized by Baroque architecture, this palace by master architect Jonas Eriksson Sundal was built in the style of Northern Baroque. It used to serve the Dukes of Palatin-Wittelsbach lineage as a residence. Max I Joseph, who would succeed to the Bavarian throne in 1799 and 1806 became the first king of Bavaria, also spent a few years here in his youth. His memorial is situated in the palace gardens. In the 19th century, the palace was initially used as a church and courthouse. From 1867 onwards, it became a palace of justice, destroyed during World War II and rebuilt according to the original plans. The palace since 1965 is once again the location of the Palatin Higher Regional Court and Public Prosecutor's Office. Castle Gardens. The green heart of the town started beating when the physician and botanist Hieronymus Bock rose to fame by producing the first German herbarium in the 16th century. The art of horticulture reached its height point in the 18th century with spectacular inner city park facilities in a Baroque style. Only one of the Baroque green veins survives today. The canal and avenue still testify to the splendor of these times, a joy for strollers and joggers alike. Little Axe. The march through history is accompanied by military over 5 centuries. Uniforms characterized the town's landscape, brought temporary wealth, and played a part in public life. One regiment to be formed in Zweibrücken is the Royal Du Pont, which fought valiantly in the American War of Independence in 1781. Here is where Bavarian units were drilled from 1816, where French occupation troops marched from 1919 to 1930. Apart from Berlin, Zweibrücken used to be the only 4-garrison city with Americans, Canadians, French, and the German Bundeswehr, which is still here today. Rose Garden. Everything started in 1539 with the herb garden famous Kräuterbuch, author Hieronymus Bock. The later Baroque garden expanded to grand dimensions, extending from the palace garden right up to the Niederauer Bach in the 18th century. The opening of the Rosarium by Princess Hildesgard of Bavaria on the site of the former ducal court gardens was the last ceremonial event to be held before the outbreak of World War I in 1914. Wren Meadows. It is a 180 years of full gallop. The first horse race is documented in the weekly Zweibrücker Wochenblatt dated August 26, 1821. Having included public entertainments in the beginning, the event's fame in sportive and society terms had by 1876 already spread beyond the borders, attracting not only the officers and officials who socialize here, but also the general population, arriving in mass by special trains. The State Stud. The stud farm was founded by Christian IV in 1755. There is a talk of Fayum, the true-bred Arab horse Napoleon rode in Battle of Austerlitz, and includes whispered information about the animal's qualities as a breeding stallion. The Zweibrücken stock was held in high esteem by the cavalry and couriers. But regional agriculture also benefited from the breeding qualities of the stud farm. The stud farm today rides into the future with fresh equestrian enthusiasm and by breeding horses for leisure pursuits. Orangery. It is the House of Culture, the former location of the Orangery, a building with an interesting use concept. In the winter months, it provided a protective domicile for valuable exotic plants featured in the Baroque gardens, where in the summer, princely culture blossomed here and theater events were also held. It was the troops of the French Revolution who destroyed the august architecture in 1793, while the houses of the commoners were spared. The only elements to remain from the original orangery are the northeast stair, turret, and parts of the back wall, all of which were integrated in a residential building later. Until next time, don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe. Bye! So guys, if you like our videos, please subscribe to our channel and feel free to comment.
Hit the bell, hit the bell, hit the bell, hit the bell. Come on guys, hit the bell.
For notifications.
And don't forget to share.
And like!